Well, a recent poll shows that most Americans don't think the United States is going in the right direction. And I want to hear from you now at 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. What do you think? Is America heading in the right direction? Let's hear your calls. This is an NBC News poll, and I want to hear from you what you think about it, but also why you think the country is going in the wrong direction. Again, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. You can chime in live and local, or you can also find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And if you watch my stuff on YouTube, I got to do this. Is apparently obligatory. You got to do this, but like and subscribe. All right. So make that happen, but let's hear from you, all right? 217-629-7970. Email bishoponair@gmail.com. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. You can connect with me that way. But let's hear from Chuck Todd, Meet the Press, talking about this poll that came out from NBC, highlighting how, well, most of the country does not like the direction that the country is going in. So here's Chuck Todd from Sunday revealing the details of this poll.
It's a truism that voters' views about the economy begin to harden in an election year around May. That theory holds. Democrats are in some serious trouble right now because in our new NBC News poll, just 16% say the country's headed in the right direction, while a whopping 75% say we're on the wrong track. In fact, that wrong track number has been 70 plus for 7 months, which in the past has signaled big losses for the governing party. President Biden's numbers have hit a new low. Only 39% approve of his job performance against 56% who disapprove. In fact, the president has now become as unpopular as Donald Trump in this poll. Here's another warning sign for Democrats. Voters are split over who they want controlling Congress, 46-46. That sounds close, but for what it's worth, in 2010, Republicans had just a 2-point lead on this question nationally, and they wound up gaining 6 Senate seats and 63 House seats. If there is anything approaching a silver lining for Democrats, it's the issue of abortion. Given the leaked Supreme Court draft decision, 60% say abortion should be legal all or most of the time, the highest we've ever recorded in our poll, versus just 37% who say abortion should be illegal all or most of the time. And abortion has now become the top issue for people who will decide how to vote based on a single issue.
So again, that's NBC and some of the polling data they revealed, but we saw recently a different poll that showed the economy, at least in Illinois, is the chief concern. So I'd be interested to see all the questions that NBC specifically asked in their poll when it comes to those top concerns. So your thoughts? Only 16% of those polled by NBC think that the country's going in the right direction. Let's hear from you now, 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I think that on a very subtle level, the country is starting to move in the right direction, and here's why. I'm encouraged by the recent Supreme Court decision to return states' rights concerning the abortion issue, and I hope that it shows a trend towards the government not trying to micromanage our lives on a local and a personal level. And the other thing that I'm encouraged about is the increase in especially parental involvement on the school board level, because as a general rule, when I was semi-involved in politics, they told us that if you wanted to change, start at the bottom and go up. So they always recommended people run it for park boards and school boards. And they always said it may take a little while, 15, 20, 30 years even, but eventually you'll start getting changes on major levels that if you just start small and don't have great expectations. Now, on the flip side of the coin, I'm very discouraged with the economy, and I kind of think that a lot of that, it has to do not only with distribution, but with the cost of productions of materials. I'm not at all happy with the wage increase, the minimum wage increase, because I do think that it has contributed to the increase in prices, as well as what's going on with the petroleum and the energy industry.
So there's a lot there, he said. Appreciate the call, 217-629-7970. And it's interesting to note that, indeed, there seems to be more awareness about what's going on at school districts across the country. And even Governor J.B. Pritzker last week, he talked to the Washington Post. I'm going to see if I can pull some of this up, because he seemed to recognize that, indeed, there may be some difficult times ahead for Democrats in Illinois. So could it be a red wave? Here is Governor J.B. Pritzker last week talking to the Washington Post about some of his concerns, and in particular, how there seems to be some indication from what happened at the gubernatorial win for Republicans in Virginia. Here's Governor J.B. Pritzker on Friday.
That this is going to be a tougher year for Democrats than 2020 or 2018. But it's in large part because of the challenges that COVID brought on.
So the governor also admitted it's going to be a tough year. He hoped to capture more voters for the election with a particular issue here.
It's Democrats that have rescued the economy. It's Democrats that have kept people safe and healthy when Republicans like Donald Trump were working against all of those things.
So what do you think? Is it going to be a tough year for Democrats, considering the NBC poll that shows 76% of people or something with a margin of error of 3 or 4 points? So that could be even higher or just a little bit lower. But even if it's just a little bit lower, it's still the vast majority of people out there have significant problems with the direction of the country. So I want to hear from you, 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
You know, I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen another party sprout up out of the Democratic Party, because this is the kind of thing that happened in Lincoln's time when, you know, you have this tumultuous journey and all of the ideals that went into the organization originally have just been dissolved. And the truth of what that organization was originally has just gone away. And somebody finally stands up and says, you know what, this is not what we originally stood for. We need to go back to our basics. And then up rose the Republican Party. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen that yet.
We've listen. I mean, Democrats were opposed to the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, but now they seem to be just moving right on forward to doing everything they can to help Ukraine. Right. So I think there was something that happened, at least with the Occupy Wall Street movement, if you recall. But the establishment party kind of bucked that, and then that went away. We've seen similar things within the Republican Party, with the Tea Party movement, for instance, that had some prominence. But then the establishment seemed to buck that, and they went ahead with their establishment causes. So I don't know if there is going to be a moment where we have that paradigm shift within creating a new party, because the way they've set the system up in the past few generations, like look at Illinois. The thresholds to get on the primary ballot that taxpayers pay for, it's so high that it only is good for Republicans and Democrats. And even when they do get, like a Green Party, for instance, they get kicked off the ballot if, they don't get the same threshold the following year. So it makes it very difficult for any kind of, what do you want to call it, insurgency within an established party to arise. Yeah, the sentiments, I think, are pretty telling. That's for sure.
It's pretty horrible no matter how you look at it. Do I think the Democrats are going to have a tough run at it? I think about 2 years from now, one of my kids is going to look at me and go, what's a Democrat?
We shall see. I appreciate the call. I got to take a break, but I will get to more of your calls in about 5 minutes, so please stay tuned here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News. So we've been getting your calls on the NBC poll that shows 75% of people out there think the country's moving in the wrong direction. All right, and that seems to be sustained over several months, and that's not a good sign for Democrats heading into the midterm election. Your thoughts? Why are we heading in the wrong direction if that's where you stand on this? And I've seen, at least on some social media feeds, with people saying, oh, this is all the Republicans' fault. The Republicans aren't in charge in Washington, D.C., and they don't have the White House. So it's pretty incredible. 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. Good morning. You're on WMAY. What are your thoughts on this poll?
Morning, Greg. Hey. Well, I think that fundamentally the Democrats misread the country. I mean, I think they took Biden's election as some kind of a mandate for the green movement and all this other nonsense that they pushed, where in fact I think most people were okay with Trump's policies, but they were sick and tired of Trump. They just wanted a middle-of-the-road guy to keep things going as they were. And
Biden sold himself.
Instead we got some new version of socialism here.
So Biden sold himself as a moderate, and that was part of the campaign. Whatever he did campaign, whenever he actually went out on the trail, which wasn't much, but I mean, he sold himself as a moderate, and instantly when he comes into office, that's not what we got.
Well, that's exactly right. And I'm telling you, I was in the business for a long time. And, people always gripe about gas prices. It's probably America's favorite pastime, more than football or baseball.
You're probably right.
But the point is, this Green New Deal offers no hope for anything cheaper. And I think people are beginning to realize it. I mean, if I see Pete Buttigieg or our energy secretary one more time crowing about how everybody ought to go buy a $55,000 electric vehicle, I mean, these people are out in economic and political outer space somewhere. I mean, people are lucky to make the payments on what they got. And I think people just see the inflation being out of control. They see us being run by kind of a cabal of super green elites and government elites where they're all doing okay maybe, but they're suggesting the rest of their country to views that, in my view, nobody signed up for. And that's why I think so many people are just saying, how did we end up with this mess? We thought we were going to get kind of a caretaker president and a caretaker economy, and we got none of that. Instead, we're getting
Well, there's more spending. You've got not just the $1.6 trillion that the Biden administration approved. You had the infrastructure package as well, and that was hundreds of billions more. And inflation, historic levels, gas prices. You drive by the pump, and it's just $4.75 is what I saw this morning, and there doesn't seem to be any relief in sight. You've got even questions here in Illinois based off of its clean energy policy, something we'll talk about coming up here in a bit, where there are concerns of possible rolling brownouts. And the governor reacting to that last week. We'll get to that coming up next segment. But this is, the polling right now suggests it's not going to be pretty for Democrats heading into the midterm election. 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Morning, Bishop on Air. Like and subscribe. The last couple callers have had it right, and I do like that the trend of a one-term president is actually kind of catching on. Because we've always had the new president got elected. Now we got 8 years of this crap and everything else. But with Trump, yes, it was a one and done. Hopefully, with Biden, he's going to be a one and done, and we can actually see some change to start at the top.
But that's not going to be until 2024.
Well,
right?
Again, but it's not going to be also until 2028 either. I'm happier that it's going to be on 2024 instead of 2028 whenever he has to go. And I think that right now a lot of, like you said earlier, he ran as a moderate, and definitely he has not been running things as a moderate at all. And it's finally come to light with actions because, a lot of people go by, especially the knowledgeable or working force. Actions speak louder than any words can. And with the actions that the left has been showing us, it's that they don't care. All they're in for it is for themselves, and that's all that they really want. So, but remember, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, folks.
Appreciate
Talk to you later, Greg.
Appreciate that. All right. So, that's just a collection of some voices here. Of course, there are a lot of others out there, but I think one thing that NBC poll shows, where it's like 16% of the country think it's heading in the right direction. Again, 16%, where 74% say it's going in the wrong direction. I think that shows a lot of those who are in the middle, those who don't necessarily prescribe to being a Republican or a Democrat, those independent voters that everybody's always looking for. I think that's a strong indication that those independent voters They do not like what's happening. The inflation's hitting them. The COVID policies may have been too much for them. Their kids' education's important to them, and they don't feel like they're getting. I mean, there's a whole host of issues all throughout that. But we'll see how this plays out for the midterm election. We'll keep you posted and hear from you all throughout. All right, it is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and